Teskey Daily Report, conservative views, news, information, analysis, and more in 5 to 15 minutes.
So the other night on the 2020 Democrat debate, the opioid crisis in America was a very hot topic. But Democrat runner Andrew Yang was asked about his previous support for decriminalizing opioids for personal use, including heroin. Not to mention the increase in homeless population, because a lot of junkies are homeless. Why would they not post up close by to where they can, 1, get their shit, 2, use it? Alright, jumping right in, picking up right where part 1 left off. You would also see junkies flocking to these first sites from all over the country, much like the marijuana industry impacted Washington and the state of Colorado. Oh, but you find yourself wondering, well, how can they afford to do that if they're drug addicts? It's called a hustle. It doesn't cost a penny to steal a car and rob people. Not to mention, these sites actually do nothing to save a life, other than aiding the sharing of dirty needles problem that you see on the street. How would this injection site prevent overdoses? They aren't there to regulate the amount that is used at once. And trust me, if they try, it's going to go over like a lead balloon. Because the first thing that came to my mind when I was on drugs was, well, gee, I wish somebody was around that could stop me from getting as high as I possibly want to get. It ain't going to work. Also, they aren't testing the product for purity to ensure that, 1, is safe to use it. No, this does absolutely nothing but allow a place for addicts to group up and make it easier to access their drug. Period. Now, if you'll recall, in part 1, I mentioned the government is trying to segue their way into drug dealing with the citizens' permission, essentially. That's what this is doing. Now, that last example is exactly how they're going to do it. Junkies will continue to overdose, and the people will continue to express their discontent with the opioid epidemic. The government will then blame the problem on their inability to guarantee the purity and strength of the narcotics. And then the only way to change that is to consent to the safe government manufacturing of the narcotic itself. Is that making more sense now? So that's exactly where they're going. Now, as for Andrew Yang's last comment of that we have to recognize addiction as a disease caused by capitalism run amok. It's just absolutely ridiculous, honestly. I've had this argument with other addicts, but believe it or not, most of my arguments with this have been with people that have never even lived that life. Which is a whole nother argument in itself. Because if you've never lived it, you ain't allowed to speak about it. That's part of the fucking problem with these politicians. Because they've never lived it, they don't fucking understand it, they have no idea what it's like. They're out here just throwing out bullshit ideas that sound good to the masses of people who have never done it. You can bring me all the studies you want, read all the bullshit you want, and I'm still going to tell you to take it and shove it right up your ass. In my opinion, as someone who's used every drug known to man, name it, I've done it. Addiction begins and ends with a choice. Period. I chose to smoke that heroin. pop that pill, drop that acid. I chose to shoot up that meth. Nothing made me do a goddamn thing. And I made the choice to get clean. All of them are choices that a person makes. Now, yes, it is proven that long-term narcotic abuse rewires the brain, especially meth can even cause things like schizophrenia, this and that. That at that point in turn becomes a disease when it becomes schizophrenia. But that rewiring of your brain and the way things fire doesn't necessarily change who you are deep down. I hate it when people blame the things they do on the drugs. No. You were always capable of the evil, heinous, or degrading behavior that you committed. The drugs simply made you not give a fuck. I know people who have shot up meth for years and never done much more than shoplift. Now, they made their come up because I was one of those people that sold everything I possibly could have for drugs. So his come up would be driving me and other people place to place to do their dirt, and he'd pretty much hang out in the car and we'd go jack stuff and go do whatever we needed to do to take it back, sell it, whatever, and go get our fix. But he was a part of providing for the process, so consequently he gets a cut. There are plenty of people out there that do that too. There are also plenty of people out there that did the things that I did. There are also people out there that did a lot worse than I did. You were always capable of it. It shuts your conscience off along with your common sense, and you just do whatever the fuck you want to do whenever you want to do it. In turn, the same thing goes for if you were weak-minded and lacked willpower before drugs. It will only intensify on drugs. Just like if you're a strong-willed, independent, strong person before drugs, that will only intensify on drugs. The outrageous idea that people can't quit because it's a disease is downright ludicrous. It's because they're fucking weak. Or maybe, just maybe, they don't really want to quit chasing that high yet. Government, family, friends, it doesn't matter. No one can help those who don't truly want it. Capitalism itself has nothing to do with it. Now here's an idea. Instead of allowing the government to try to fix an epidemic that they helped perpetuate to begin with, why not blame the doctors in the 90s and beyond that traded their morality and the health of patients in their care for a paycheck from Big Pharma? Or blame the government for the lack of regulations and standards behind the prescriptions of very addictive substances. This is a Democrat textbook attempt to divert attention from the government's accountability in this matter once again. I suppose it may just be a coincidence that every junkie I know that actually got clean and started to do something with their lives just happens to be a conservative in politics. Those that can't get clean are more liberal or very liberal. I don't know. It may just be a good comparison for strong-minded versus weak-minded. Alright folks, there you have it. The dissected response to the idiotic Democrats' thoughts to decriminalizing opiates, straight from the mouth of a former drug addict himself. As I've said, I've used literally every drug known to man. If you think of it, I've probably tried it, or at least tried to get it at some point. No, I'm not proud of it whatsoever. But I can and will tell you from experience and my knowledge of drug use, drug addicts, the drug game in general, that this will not work. That's all for today, everyone. Thank you again. I'm Aaron Teskey, and again, any topics that you may like to hear about, please email at the address below. Thank you, everybody. You have a great day.
I'm just a patriot, trying to have my voice heard and talk about how to fix this country. I just ask everybody not to be a sheep and think for yourself.